Hey guys, this is just a short video here showing progress on my coffee table train layout here. Stuff we're going to use tonight is going to be some screws, wire, a utility knife, measuring tape, some screwdrivers, pliers, strippers, soldering station with flux, transformer, sandpaper, a little extension cord, my drawer with the switches, and a couple pieces of wood that I cut out for this. What we're going to do tonight is work on the wiring for the train table. As you saw, I had 3 switches on there and 2 electrical switches for the actual switches on the railroad. Started out, I need to put a square and just make everything kind of line up level and a pencil there. At this point, I discovered that the one side was a little crooked, so I went and switched the square to the better side here, more flat. There we go. And lined up my switches. It's about 7 inches across, so I centered everything up at about 3.5 inches. At least attempted to. Marked everything up and drew a line on the bottom to line everything, keep everything nice and level. Next, I'm going to move about 3 inches up and start working on the other smaller switches. These switches are going to be used to control the main line and the 2 sidings that I have for power. So I'll start out with a nice line here, get everything nice and level. I'm going to line up the 2 outside switches, as you're going to see here in the video, as parallel as I can to the outside of this lower switch. As you look at these switches, they're a little narrower on the inside than they are on the top. So I'll go ahead and line them up, mark out the outside and inside for each switch. And we're going to repeat this process for the other switch on the other side, just using the same one here, like so. Now I'm going to measure out the area in between. Grab the old trusty tape measure here. And you're looking, it's just a hair under 2.5 inches. So we're looking at about 1.25 inches. So go ahead and grab that. We're going to mark it with the right end of the pencil, that is. Now we're going to take the other switch, center it up on that little dot right there, and go ahead and mark the inside sections there. Like so. There we go. Now we're going to measure the width of the switch here. You take the old trusty tape measure there again. We'll butt it up on the inside of there. And if you look at that, it's just at 3/4 inches. So, yeah, set on 3/4 inch. Now we're going to go out here, take our trusty tape measure. Found out it's a little harder trying to mark with just the end of the tape measure. So what we did is just pulled out a little excess, lined up the 10-inch there, and went 3/4 inch on the 10. Then I kind of hand drew these in because we're going to be cutting them out with a miter saw. Correction, I'm sorry, a jigsaw as I know it. So we'll drill a hole, put the saw in there, cut everything out. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, there we go. We got the holes cut out. And a little bit excess on that first one. Trying to put the wires through here. It's a little difficult when I try to look through a camera and hold everything and all that fun stuff. So if you notice on the back of the switches here, they do have a little snap in, so you just push them into place. Makes it really simple. And voila. Do that for the other 3 and get started on their wiring on the backside. So we'll just first discuss here a little bit of electrical theory and how we're going to wire this. So you see we have the transformer in my mock line up here. AC side of the transformer is typically for your accessories, and DC variable is for your trains and the how fast they go. AC accessories you're looking at are switches and lights and all this other fun stuff. Is like I said, DC's variable. That's what the big knob usually on a controller controls that output. So the game plan is here is how to get the DC to our main lines, as you see above. The way I'm doing this is with terminal blocks and switches. You can see I have the power wire coming out to a terminal block, separated into 3 separate wires, going to 3 separate switches, then to another terminal block. These terminal blocks are going to give power to the rails individually. I want to have everything individual, so one will be for the main line, the other ones will be for these sidings. So the way you do this is you have to put everything on the same side of the line too. So if you bring power on the outside rail, you need to have power or positive on the outside rail. It's going to be positive on the outside rail of your two um, inner sidings. So as we go further on, you'll see that we go ahead and connect the wiring, as you see, to the outside lines, to the positive side. Then I also added now the ground block, terminal blocks, and how we're going to run our grounds back into our transformer. Pretty simple here. The grounds are all common, so we don't have to have 3 separate ground lines for it, as you see for the power. So we'll be running every negative line to one single post on the outside terminal block. From there, we'll be running that outside terminal block to the inner terminal block. Just a straight wire, nothing fancy there. And then from the inside terminal block to the negative side of the transformer. That completes our circuit, so you'll be able to run your trains properly. As you'll see here in a minute, everything updates. Other things too you see is that now, as you'll see in the next video coming up here, is how we started out everything. And you'll see this terminal block here, pretty simple, straightforward. Each block is separated, so you got power going across each side and not interconnected. So the first thing we'll have to do is actually take one side and go ahead and jumper it to the other two. So you have 3 power wires coming off going to the switches. Then we'll have the one ground coming in on that far side of the terminal block like I discussed earlier. We won't use the middle one at this time, but it could be there for use in the future. So first things first, we'll grab a little bit of wire here. Cut a little section out with a little bit of cutters. And clip there. Take that little section there, you're going to hit it with the strippers. Strip the end off. Yeah, this one's about 20 gauge wire, so go ahead and add the last little section right there and strip them. Now we got this, we'll just go ahead and bend it in half and make a little U going from one side of one terminal block. Get the pliers out here, make it a little easier on ourselves. There you go. So you're going to go from one terminal block to the next terminal block there, kind of like so. Pretty simple. Then you're going to take your little screwdriver and go ahead and tighten down that first one. We'll leave the second one. Get that. We're actually going to tighten it down this time. Alright, so we got that jumper block. This is the wood box I put in, the one piece of wood to cap the end there. Then we already have the jumper wires in there. As you can see, I put a handle on the front, screwed it down to the drawer itself. I got the second terminal block in place now, and we got start wiring in the switches. So that's how we make it really simple. One red wire going to the one switch. First one here, go ahead and tighten that down. Make sure it's nice and tight. Make sure it's not on the insulation, so it's actually making contact with the wire. That's what I was doing there. Alright, nice and tight down. Get the next one. We're loosen the terminal up. Slide the second one in there. These terminal blocks are really nice because they're the actual clamping down ones, so you don't have to make a hook and hook them. You just slide the wire in. There we go with the third one. And we'll go ahead and tighten that guy down too. Now we got all 3 of them hooked up to each one of the terminals. We can move on to the other side. Get it slid in the way here so you can see what I'm doing. So you can see the switches there with the wires running to the terminal. Now we're going to take the ground wires and go ahead and put them on those 3 posts. and we'll have the 3 outputs on that side to the track. And the 1 ground will jumper from the one side to the other side. We'll go ahead and grab this black wire and go ahead and put it in the first slot there. Pretty simple, got it in there. We'll flathead to screw that down. Move to the next one. Screw that, tighten it down. If I remember right, this one actually came a little loose, so we had to go and slide her back in hold position. And a 3rd wire. And after this point, I could have done the single ground wire from point to point, but I kind of forgot about it till after the fact. But you'll add the 3rd ground wire to the outside terminal posts on both sides. That'll provide your grounds to the transformer. That's what I'm looking for. So as you can see, we got all 3 switches hooked up in between the 2 terminals. And next thing we'll be working on is putting everything back down together. So that's how the switch is going to look mounted on the box. There we go. Now we're going to add the power wires and the AC wires, as we already got them hooked up to the switches down below. So first things first, you want to make sure you got the right cables for the right job. You don't want to mix up the DC with the AC. That'll cause one heck of an issue for you. You go ahead and strip the ends of the wires. I took a pair of pliers and bent hooks into them. Makes it a little easier to go onto the transformer. At least that's what you hope. Yeah, I ended up stripping off a little more here because it was just wasn't quite enough. I said back to the pliers. Best thing to do with the pliers, the way you make the hooks is go ahead and get it on the end of the wire, just barely on the end, enough to grab it, and then roll the pliers. That'll make a nice hook, usually about the right size every time. If not, go ahead and straighten it back out. These are solid core wires, so you can bend them, whatever way direction you have. But so now you see is we'll slide the wires underneath all the other cables over there, and these are going to the AC power for your accessories. And this will be my switch control. Adjust the camera there a little bit so you can see a little better. So you're gonna slide them up underneath there, get a screwdriver out, get it on the screw, and tighten her down. Make sure you want to put them starting the wires kind of on the left. If you're facing the right hand side, so when you tighten the wires down, it actually pulls the wire across the terminal when you tighten it down. So had some issues getting this guy in here. He was being a little stubborn today. So got the pliers out and making some slight adjustments here. Once I get her slid up underneath here, we go ahead and tighten it down, but just got to mess around with the wire and manipulate it just enough so you can get to work. It's the joys of electrical wiring here, just ask me. It's always fun. Nice thing also about wiring, usually you have an issue, it's never the same issue twice. So, pretty simple circuit here at least, so troubleshooting is pretty easy. It's either going to be a switch or a wire is not connected properly, or not making connection. Issues I had with this layout also when I first started out, just you press somewhere on the electrical on the track somewhere, and for some reason it make the train run. If you let go, it wouldn't run anymore. So alright, moving on, we got back now. We're putting the DC wiring on. So I actually ended up cutting a little too much off there, so I had to cut it back a little bit. But same thing here, pliers, go ahead and make your hooks. Makes life a whole lot simpler sometimes. And we're going to add them to the back of the transformer. Um, Typically, they're marked plus and minus, so you want to make sure that if you're running red and black, you want to have the red on the positive and black on negative. It's just something to keep in your mind. It makes it easier for you to troubleshoot when you need to. Unlike me, where I decided to use black wire on everything, so hopefully I don't ever have to troubleshoot this one too much. So I'll feed all the wiring up back underneath all the other cables like I did the AC accessories. And I look back here and made sure I got the red wire, which was the first one here. You see me pulling on. That is the red, this is the positive side, so I'll attach it to the positive side. Which it goes in pretty easy here. Little screwdriver, screw it down. And then you do the same thing for the negative side. Nice thing with these transformers here, they're most of them are surge protected, short protected too, so you don't burn up a transformer. You accidentally hook everything up wrong. Which, me being an electrician as long as I have, I still make mistakes. We're all human here, so at least it's forgiving equipment. You get some of that newer, not as good transformers. They may cause you some issues with shorting, so be careful. Some of them had diodes in them. When you short out a diode, you're not going to fix it. So got all the wiring hooked up now. I'm looking to line up the board here. I've already pre-drilled holes in the corners here, so not to split the wood. So you go ahead and put 3 little wood screws in there. Nothing fancy. I got some stainless screws I had, and as you see right there, makes it easy. I think they're a ½ inch, if that. You know, careful using a drill though, because you can strip it out. You'll pull the wood out of it, um, strip out the hole. But yeah, just put it on a low torque setting and lower speed, and you'll be fine. So that finishes up basically the electrical box. I was going to stop here at the time, but I decided I don't want to give it a test run. So you'll see here in a minute that I take everything back apart and run the 3 lines in there and test run the train, as you can see here. She's running pretty smooth. Had to make a couple little corrections here or there. For some reason, the Bachmann train coupler did not line up correctly with the Microtrains boxcars there. But everything works fine. You can see the transformers working. It speeds up, slows down. All in all, it was pretty good. I said I'll be continuing this on in the next series here, part 3. Unfortunately, I didn't get the slides for the drawer in time, so I'll get them. Also finishing the top of the train table. Had a little bit of issues with that here this weekend, and I got a little sick, so didn't get as much done as I want. You can tell my voice is a little hoarse. No COVID, thank God, just a little bit of a head cold. So I'm glad you guys joined me uh, for this video. If you do like what I'm doing, please give me a like, give me a subscribe, so I can continue making content. After part 3 and the coffee table's all finished up, I do have another project lined up. Should be pretty cool here. It'll be a much larger project compared to what I've done before. Still on N scale, but should be pretty cool. It's going to be well, I'll leave that as a secret and have you guys come back and check it out. Also, I'll be putting up a couple videos of some airplane stuff and some fish stuff that I haven't yet. So stay tuned. Like I said, if you like what I do, please leave a like, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and we'll see you guys next time.